Okay, hello there. Well, this is going to be part 2 of the scrap-built wheelbarrow. I thought what we'd do, we need to start prepping some of the materials we've got. As you've seen in the previous video, we're going to use entirely scrap, basically. The runners from a couple of old beds are going to make up the majority of this framework for this wheelbarrow. Now, I've done one of these already. I've already got one split down, but I'll show you how. In fact, you can't really see that on camera. Let me just see if I can just pan you across a bit so you can see kind of what I'm doing. There we go. We've got one of the bed runners here. So they're off just off an old metal bed. And what we need to do is basically, if you look here, there's welds all the way down where the two pieces of metal are stitched together. And the idea is going to be, what we're going to do is use a cutting disc and just slip through these welds on this side and then the same on the other side there, and then we should, with an old chisel and a little bit of work, we should be able to get these two pieces of metal to split, and we can use them both in the project. Let me just turn this around, it might be easier this way for the first cut. So basically what we've got to do, like I said, is whiz through all these welds here. I'm going to clamp this down to the workbench so it's not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to use one of these sash clamps. It should be fine for what we're doing. So we'll clamp that down like that. But just to stop the metal moving away while I'm using the grinder, the cutting wheel on it. Right, so that's secure. I've got my grinder with a cutting wheel set up. Just put a brand new wheel in it, so should be nice and easy. We've got our PPE. Absolutely essential. Really, if you're doing anything with an angle grinder, you need at least some form of eye protection. I have these. I also have, which really are better for if you're throwing sparks, I also have some proper goggle types. These are, generally speaking, if I'm using my drill press, or perhaps just using my little grinding wheel, I use these. Usually if I'm doing a lot of grinding, when I know I'm going to be creating a lot of sparks, there's a lot of rusty stuff, I will use these because they've got a lot more protection on them. Because I'm not going to be creating a great deal of sparks with this and it's clean metal, we'll probably just use these for this one. Ear defenders. I wish so much that I'd worn these earlier on in my life, because I am actually pretty deaf now. I don't wear a hearing aid. I should really wear a hearing aid. I've worked for a long time in events and music and on stage and stuff like that, next to big PA systems, testing out big PA systems, repairing them. My hearing's shot. If I'd have worn some of these some of the time. Also, we used to work at Manchester Airport and used to have to walk down the apron of the runway to get to the part of the building I worked in, so I should have these were offered to us, but I never used to wear them because I was young and stupid. If you value your hearing, do start wearing a pair of these. I now, whenever I'm doing anything, especially like in close confinement like this, I do now always wear some ear defenders. So we might as well get to it. I'll put my ear defenders on, put my safety specs on. Right, there we go. As you can see, I don't know if you can see, I am all safe. We'll get the grinder. I've got a tangle in my cable, that's never good either. Let's get that tangle out of the cable, switch on. Anyone that's watching this and you're wearing headphones, I should have warned in previous videos when we're using power tools, but just watch the volume levels because it is going to get a little bit noisy now. So we'll fire up. that simple. It's just a case of slicing through the centre of the you don't go right the way through, because when you use a chisel to actually split these, you just want to take the vast majority out and try not to cut into the actual metal that we want to reuse. That's basically the way I do it. What I will do, because the camera's a bit in the way of where I need to work, I'll just finish off whizzing through these spot welds, well, these stitch welds, and then we'll come straight back once I've done all that and we get to the next part of the job, which is just freeing this off from the bottom piece. So back in a sec. Okay, that's all the welds basically cut through on this side, just as you've seen me do, and I've also just done the ones on the other side as well. So now basically all we need to do is get that piece of metal there to separate from that piece of metal, and it's literally just being held on by the tiniest of tiny bits. And the way I like to do this, I've got an old, I don't use this for wood, it's an old wood chisel that I've sharpened up, so it is sharp. Well, actually this isn't ever used for working on wood. What this is used for is basically just cracking these welds, what's left of them welds. Basically, if you give them a, ideally you want this trapped in a vice. This sash clamp isn't ideal, but I'm working with what I've got now. Eventually I will have a vice on here for doing stuff like this. It will be woodworking vice, but it'll suffice for this. We can bend it a bit to get it down, it'll be fine. Right, that's better. So as I was saying, what we need to do is basically just go along and make sure that them welds that we cracked before have actually cracked. That one's gone. That one's gone. That one's gone. That one's gone. That's really as simple as it is. A good smack like that, and you can see what's left of the weld crack. Right, so we've cracked all them. Get that off there, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clamp this again, but to the edge of the bench like that. Now we've already cut all them welds up there. Let's get this onto the bench. Oops. Ideally in the right place. There we go. And clamp that down. There we go, that's clamped. And I found a, what size is it now? I'm not actually sure what size it is. I think it's a 1/2 inch spanner that fits over that nicely, and basically all it's a case of doing is start at one end and just basically rock it a bit all the way along. Watch this one be more thicker than the one that I've just done. Yeah, and what we might have to do, I don't think I quite went through far enough on them welds on this side, you know. I might just have to get the grinder out again and just perhaps go through those welds to just a little bit further. I don't think I quite went through them far enough. So again, watch your ears if you're wearing headphones. This one's been a bit trickier than the other one. Sod's law, innit? The one I do off camera come off straight away. As soon as I try and repeat it on camera, then can't get the damn thing off. Can't go in now, just. There we go. There we go, do you hear that crack then? There we go, it's starting to come now. There we go. And we're free. So yeah, that was a little bit trickier than the previous one that I just did. The last one, it come off literally straight away. I just went through them, get a couple of twists like that, and it snapped straight off. That one was all, I think it was actually the paint that they sprayed on that was holding it. But let's get that back on the bench now. Right. So we've got. Switch that off, get that to the back of the bench where it's out of our way. So we've got one thin 20mm by 20mm piece there which can make the uprights for the legs. We've got one piece there which is going to be probably our main chassis rail. Then we've got the same again, this is the one that I did earlier. So we've got two of them lengths, so they're 2 meters by 20mm by 20mm box, and these are 2 meters 20mm by 50mm box, I think. Yeah, 50mm box. So basically, we've got everything we need to make the wheelbarrow chassis from. The wheel carriers we're going to make out of this piece of angle that I've got here. It's of old grandma's bed. So I'll probably cut that bit off at the end there that's got something welded to it where a bolt went through. So I'll chop that off there and I'll make my wheel carriers out of a piece of that. We'll come to that in a bit anyway. So basically that's all the metal ready. So I'm just going to pause you while I have a bit of a clear up in here, and we'll get to cutting the first bits of metal for this project. So just stand by and we'll be back in a sec. Okay, we have our first piece of metal. I've cleared everything else away. This is what's going to make our two main chassis rails. Have a quick look on my horribly scribbled idea of a diagram. So what we're basically making first are going to be those two rails that run down there, and they will be out of this piece here. And fortunately it's a 2 meter long length. I want to make them rails 1 metre, so it is literally just a case of sawing this thing straight in half. I'll grab a marker pen and we'll grab a set square. We'll just double check this is definitely 2 metres long. Yeah, we're bob on 2 metres long there. So if we go right down to the end and we go 1 metre. And get the old set square, and we can make sure that we're nice and square on this, which will be apparent why we want that a little bit later. But we'll mark that round. We'll come up on the other end there. Put this on, these two should line up perfectly. Yeah, close enough. Right, we've got a couple of ways we can cut this. We could use my chop saw here actually, because that's perfectly capable of cutting box section steel like this. We could just use a hacksaw and hacksaw through it. Again, that would be perfectly acceptable. But as it's already set up and it's got a slitting disc in it, I'm just going to use the angle grinder to make that cut. So again, just put the safety squints on, put my ear defenders on, and again, just watch your ears if you've got headphones on. Helps if I switch it on at the wall. So we have, basically we have our 2 chassis rails there. Let me just see if we can adjust the camera so you can get, I don't know, can you see them more? Wish we could get the camera a bit higher. Let's just give that a quick try. Just sorry about the angles changing slightly, but you can get some more of it in shot. We come down here. That's a little bit better, isn't it? I really need a wider angle on this camera, but that's as good as it'll go, unfortunately. Right, so we've got our 2 main chassis rails now. Now, being these are a bit of an old bed, they do still have them brackets on that side there, if you can see. What I think I'm going to do is, I'm planning on having that as the end that the wheel's going to go on. So what I'm going to do is I'll get the grinder, and that, it's got a vent in it which I don't mind, but I'm going to cut them off and just leave that bit in the centre still in position there. So basically we've got like an end cap. I could always weld that up if I want, but at least it can allow some air to flow through it. It'll allow water, if any water does get into the frame, it allows it to drain out. So like I said, what I think I'll do is just snip off up there with the grinder. So we'll just do that now. Get the old sash clamp again. Get that. Get that set like that. Where's my safety specs? There they are. Put my safeties on. Right. And let's Right. So that's how basically what our first chassis rail fits. You can see all I've done. I just took them ears off it. I've left that on the end there. That's still welded on. I mean, I cut through part of the weld doing that, but I've left enough just to hold that. It's not structural. It just finishes the end of the tube off. That end that we cut, we don't have to worry about because we're welding something on there. So that's the first of them rails, and I've got to do the same thing with that one. And then basically what I've got to do is I've got to cut that piece there, which is I think we've decided is going to be like 50 centimetres, so 500 mil. We'll need another one for the back of the rear cross member there, and we're going to need a couple of little outriggers as well. So I'll cut them out of the other section that we've got here, and then we're going to need the two little wheel carriers, which again I'll cut out of this here. I won't bother showing me cutting that because it's exactly the same as that. I'll pause now, just get them a few little bits cut, and then we'll come back when I've got all the parts cut to that point, and we can have a look how it's actually going to go together. So back in a sec. Okay, we've got all our main pieces cut here now. So what we've got our two main rails there. We've got our rear cross member, which I'll move it this way a little bit. Basically, we've got a rear cross member which is going to fit down so you can see where it's going to fit. There we go. That's going to basically fit like that there, or something thereabouts. You can just about see that. We're going to have our front cross member, which is going to go in probably around this kind of space there. I've cut these are going to be our wheel carriers. Now that piece of old bed frame that I used for these had some holes already drilled in it, so I cut these from each end, and they're actually going to help me then quite a lot, because instead of having to drill my own holes, I can just take the cutting wheel and just cut up there where I need to, and basically that's going to that's just saved me drilling two holes, just cutting them off and using them for that. Originally I was going to just cut them off and discard them and drill my own holes, and I thought, why the hell am I doing that when I've got holes pre-drilled? All I need to do is elongate them with the cutting wheel like that. But we'll do that when we get ready to fit them. We're going to build basically this framework first. I've got a couple of other extra little bits of that I cut off. They're going to be for the feet that it sits on at the back, just to give it a bit of a foot rather than just the piece of box section coming down. So there'll be like one of them at each side, kind of like that, but they'll be on the stands, and obviously we're going to have the wheel. The wheel's going to sit somewhere around about. You can't see that, can you? Let me we'll get you up there again. There we are. The wheel's going to sit somewhere round about there, and obviously you've got the wheel carriers. These will be welded on like that underneath, but you'll have a wheel carrier on that side and one on that side like that. So that's the rough idea of the chassis of this thing anyway. What I'm going to do, if you notice here, I've marked the ends of the metal. I've cut these oversized by 500 mil. So it's 25 by 50 box section. What I'm going to do is basically cut down there, and then around that line there, and then up there, so I've got like a tab at that end, and then I'm going to fold that on flat like that and weld round it. So basically I'm going to seal the end of the box up. I'll do that on basically on these ends, and the one thing that I haven't cut yet, which are the outriggers, which are going to go in around here. I'll cut the outriggers when I've actually got basically this frame made and the wheel carrier mounted, and I can like get it up on blocks and get a good idea where I actually want it to sit, and then I can work out where them two outriggers are going to have to fit. I'll probably do the same with them and box in the ends. In fact, I'll just get set up and we'll do the quick cuts on these, and we'll get all these cut. In fact, that's another thing we can go through. What I'm planning to do, once I've worked out the exact spacing on these, because I've got to figure out where the... Imagine this is upside down at the moment, so basically the wheel carriers will go one like that and one like that there. They'll be welded along there and then along the back, so they'll be really securely welded on. But what I need to do is work out the distance they have to be apart, and then I can work out where the cross member here is going to go. And I'm going to do something that, I mean, this isn't a welding technique I've ever seen other welders use, but what I'm going to do is basically notch out half the metal on that side there, like that, same there, and I'm going to do the same on the frame rail, so that actually slots over it, and then I'll weld up and round, and that should be a really strong strong joint, rather than just, you know, cutting this into 3 pieces and putting it in, or putting a piece underneath and having it. I want it flat with the rest of this, so I thought that'd probably be the neatest way of doing it. So I'll get set up, I'll get all these measurements figured out, and all these bits marked up, and we'll do the final bit of cutting on this, get all the final bits cut out, and then we can actually put it all together loose, and then look at actually welding it all together and actually making the frame a full thing. So back as soon as I've got these final bits of measurements figured out. Okay, that's everything marked up. We've got all these marks here for the cross half cuts there, so how that's going to fit together, and I've marked up all these ends. So we might as well get to doing some final cutting, and then we can actually see if we can stick this thing together. So what I'm going to do, I think I'll do the first couple on camera, and then I'll probably just cut to having them all finished, and we can actually get to doing some welding. And I'll just grab my safety gear. And where's that clamp gone? Where's that clamp? There it is. Clamp to the workbench just so it doesn't move while we cut it, because them bigger pieces weren't so bad really, apart from all the big cuts when I was actually just cutting it up. When you get to smaller pieces like this, it does have a tendency to jump round a bit, so that's all it needs, just to hold it in place. Grab the old ear defenders. Switch on. Right. So we've cut down both sides there on both sides. All we need to do now is we just basically clamp it like that. That should be secure enough for what we're going to do. All we're going to do is just slit down that side and that side with the cutting wheel. Bend that over. There we are. That one's So as you can see, basically what we can do is we can fold that flat over there and then just tack round the edge, and we've just closed the end of the box section in. I won't bother showing you doing that side, but what I will show you is just notching these out here. These are a bit tricky to do, but what I think we can do is put that on the bench like that, and we clamp it like that. That should be holding it quite secure. Then we should be able to get in with the cutting wheel. In fact, before we do that, what we'll do is we'll lay it flat and we'll just go along there and there just to if this is one you've got to be a little bit careful, but I don't care if I go over it slightly. Over. We'll just cut down them edges there, and then we'll just tip over there, and we'll be able to break them little bits out. That should be strong enough. Okay, hopefully these are the final. Now hopefully we can get them, we can easily get them little bits out now, like that one's. We just keep worrying it like that, that should just break off in any second, he says. Or you can always just help it out with the old hammer and chisel. And somewhere's holding it slightly, there. There we go. And that should just break out. There we are. That's the first one out. Let's see how. There we go. Oh, that was even easier, that one, weren't it? So that's obviously we've got that side to cut out as well, but that's basically it. We'll then take all the paint off around all the areas we're going to be welding. But what I'll do is I'll just finish cutting all these out. We'll get back when we can just do a quick rough assemble of it, and then we'll just perhaps take some paint off it, and then we'll get to doing some welding. So back in a sec. Okay, we're back, and that's all the cutting done. All we've got left really is the grinding, and we'll just do a quick trial fit, so you can have an idea how this thing's actually going to, it's going to go together proper. Let's get all our little scraps. I'm not going to throw them away just yet. They'll just go to one side. You never know when you need a tiny little piece of metal in a project like this. Right, I've took the liberty of, I've folded the ends in, as I was saying. All I did was, as I cut them off, I just knocked them over with one of my engineering hammers. They're not perfect, but they don't have to be. We'll whiz round there with the welder, and then we'll grind them smooth. We'll grind them so there's no sharp edges on them anyway, and really that's all this needs. It's rough and ready. Let's call it rough and ready, this build. Right, so we've got our rear cross member. That'll go in about, in fact actually we can work out exactly where it's going to go. So we might put that against there like that. And I mark roughly there, and there. We put that at the back there and we line them up roughly like that. You can't see that on set, but take my word for it, that's right. And we put that in there and we put that in there. Those very slightly out of, let's just get pulled out that way a bit. That needs to be pulled that way a tiny touch. Needs to go that way a tiny touch. But yeah, we're about square there. So basically that, let me just see if I can get you down to see the other end. So we've got the rear cross member there, our centre cross member, and then our wheel carriers, which I have actually just whizzed out that hole, so these fit the wheel. Look there, these will basically go on the wheel like that, and we'll have one wheel carrier there, like that. We'll have the other wheel carrier, say there, like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld up the rest of the frame first, and then we can basically just put the wheel carriers on the wheel and eyeball it exactly where we want it there, and then we can just tack them in place. But before we can do any of that, we just need to take some of the paint, because we're using well, we're going to be using gasless MIG, what I would rather call wire-fed arc. It's actually, MIG doesn't really like welding through paint. Arc, because it's so brutal, and if you're on the heavier settings, it will pretty much burn through a bit of rust and paint. I mean, it's going to contaminate your weld, but it will work. Same with this, on the higher current settings, with like the gasless wire, it'll burn through a bit of rust and paint. This is only thin gauge steel. It's like 1 mil, 1.2 mil thick steel. I don't think it's even 1.5. I haven't got my calipers here to check, but let's see what we can see from a ruler. No, in fact, I think it is just 1 mil. So it is thin wall box section, this, that we're using. If we use a high current on the welder, I'm just going to blow holes in the metal. So we're going to be using the welder on some of its minimum settings. Because of that, prep's going to be quite important. So we do have to take off all the paint round where we're actually going to be welding. So we can switch off the welder with the cutting wheel in it and get this out of the way. Sorry, not welder, grinder. Why did I call it a welder then? And we'll bring in the grinder with a actual grinding wheel on it. Now I could use a flat disc for this. Trouble is I've only got a few left, and I'd rather use them for polishing off metal. It's a bit brutal using a grinding wheel for just removing paint, but it will do the job. So that's what basically we're going to do. I'll just do a couple of bits here, and then I'll pause the video, I'll get all the rest done and ready for actual welding, and we can actually get on to getting the welder out and see if we can stick some of this together. So right, where's my, there they are. I'll just put my ear defenders on. One of the advantages of having multiple grinders is that you're not constantly swapping these discs about. We'll start on, basically we'll just start with this one just to clean this up. basically that's, if you look round there, you can see I've just taken all the paint off from round where we're actually going to be welding. So I've got to do that, and then I've got to do the same on the ends there, same on that end piece that we're going to do, and on the edges round there where we're going to be welding that flap that I nailed over. So I've got quite a little bit of grinding to do here, so I'll get on with that, and we'll come straight back as soon as I've got all these places where we're going to actually do the welding cleaned up. Also where I'm going to fit the wheel brackets at the front there, we're going to have to clean these up because obviously they're rusty and old and manky, but we'll also have to clean the top surface and a bit round there as well for weld them in place. And I don't think we'll do that just yet. We'll get the rest of the frame welded up, like I say, and once we've got them eyeballed in place and some marks made, we can come back round and we can actually clean up where we need to clean up there. So I'll be back as soon as I've got the rest of this paint off and we can actually look at welding this thing together. Okay, let's get some welding done. I've just got the welder set up. Like I said, this is a cheap and nasty Clark Weld MIG, which is, well, it's not a MIG. Like I said, it's wrong to call gasless MIG at all, because it's not. It's basically, like I say, a wire-fed arc welder with the like a flux core in the wire. Anyway, but it will do for this kind of thin metal work. It's not too bad for thin metal work. I've just put a new spool of flux core in it, and I've just set my tension on my wire feed there, so we're basically set, ready to go. What I have had to do, though, is run an extension lead down from the house to power this thing, because I've just found out that whenever it's fine on its minimum setting, but I wasn't getting good penetration on a test piece. Hang on, they might still be a bit hot. Let me just spin something to pick these up with. Oh, actually no, that's cooled down. I was, because I've not used this welder for a while, I was just testing on a couple of bits of scrap. These are the bits that I cut out and I said I wouldn't throw away straight away. And basically, like I said, I was just doing some quick tests to see how well it was welding. And I wasn't getting decent penetration. If you look on that one, I wasn't getting decent penetration on the minimum setting on the welder. That's far too high. There I had it set with a higher current, but my wire speed was too low. But then we'll have a quick look at. Oh, it's cool enough to touch. Still a bit warm though. If we have a quick look at that one, if you can see there, we've got nice penetration right through the steel. So I've got the basically I've got the welder dialed in, and it's always handy if you've got some little scrap offcuts of what you're working with, just to use them to set your welder up, and then you know your welder's pretty much on where it needs to be. But like I said, I've had to run an extension lead down from the house because every time I struck an arc on that thing, it tripped the 16 amp breaker in here. So I will have to address that if I want to do any more welding down in this little workshop. I'll just get you down on the floor, and we'll get the piece set up, and we can actually see if we can glue this thing together. I'll get my clamp down there. I'll try and keep the welder up here so it's out of harm's way. Let's get our steel to the frame. Right, let's get down on the floor. Ooh. Right, so here we are. We've got our two rails. Well, basically, if you're just thinking about this like a car, those are your chassis rails. We've got our front cross member here, which will slot in like that. Now I should have actually, thinking about it, I think I should have took some paint off here and there, which I've missed. But we have got the paint is all off on the sides there, so we'll get away with it. I'll move my bin, and we will just get the rear cross member loosely where it should be. Oh, wrong, upside down. That's the way it should go. So our rear cross member's something roughly like that. So that's the basic frame actually roughed up. I've got some of my welding magnets here. I should have 4 of these, but I can only find 3 at the moment, unfortunately. Bit annoying. But basically what these do is these keep you, they're a magnet, a triangular magnet. And then if we stick them in like that, it will keep that joint there nice and square while we weld it together. I'll stick another one. You have to make sure they're clean though, or else they go slightly off angle, and they are very, very prone to picking up as much crud as possible. But we'll stick another one of them in there like that. Just make sure it's nice and flat. There we are. So basically, with that in there and that in there, we know that that is nice and square there, so we can start welding that together. Where can we put the weld? Basically, then what we need is a good ground for the welding clamp there. Now I think I'm going to, because I cleaned some paint off at the back to connect the rear cross member on, I can actually use there to ground out my my earth out the welder. Right, so that's pretty much set. So we've got the welder set up, we've got our frame pretty much in place where we want to weld it. I've got my welding gauntlets, and I've got my welding mask. This is an auto darkening mask. You can get simple masks that you basically just hold as you weld, but this is something a little bit more professional. It's not a really expensive one or anything, but the advantage of this is you have it on your head, you can set yourself up, and as soon as you strike your arc up, it instantly goes dark, so it stops you getting any flash in your eyes. It just makes life a little bit easier while you're welding, to be fair. Right, so I've got my mask on. Hopefully you can still hear me. And we'll get my gloves on. I'll pick up the welding rod, and we'll just start. We're just going to put a few tacks in place, basically just to hold it all together to start with. So we're going to put a tack here. Oops. We'll just snip the wire down. False start then. Let's try that again. There we go. See what we've got there. We're not getting a great amount of penetration there. Let's see if we can perhaps just tweak the wire speed up a little bit, because we're on maximum power. It's only got 2 power settings, this welder. That's why I much prefer my MIG, my proper gas MIG. Like I said, I've no wire at the moment. Oops. There's me. That's better. Right, we've got a decent tack there at last. Struggle a bit to get it to start then for some reason, but we have got a tack on there now. So we're going to basically do the same thing on this corner there, and then we'll swap the magnets around, and we'll do the same there, and then we'll look at tacking the back piece on, and then we can actually go around and weld them up properly. See, that worked much better that time. Yeah, we've got a good tack on there. We'll just pop the magnet off. We've only got one tack, so we do have to still be a little bit careful with it. And just get that magnet in place there, and we'll get a tack on this side there, and then we'll do the same on that. Get round here. And now we've got a couple of welds anyway, it should be a lot easier to get these other tacks on. So let's go in there. That should do. Yep, that will hold for now. And we'll put one on here. And again, that should do, that should hold it for the moment. I mean, if something's moved at this point, we do want to be able to pull it back apart. That's why we've only put like a simple tack on each side. Right, let's take the welding magnets off, and that should stay. Yeah, that's not too bad at the moment. We'll move this down. So we do have to be a little bit careful because it's not welded fully yet. I'm slightly out of line there. I think I'm actually slightly out on one of my pieces here, but we'll see. I'm going to put one of my magnets there just to make sure that we keep that nice and true while we mess about with the back. So we've got that held on there, and we'll work on this. We'll work on getting this piece in place. Now what we can do is we can move. In fact, we might put that right on the end there. Oops. What we'll do is we'll get this stuck together with the magnets first, and then we'll move that into place. Get that about right. That looks okay there. We'll get this one in. Should really take my welding gauntlets off for doing this, because it's nothing around here is going to be hot, and they do make working on stuff a bit of a pain. Right, let's get that roughly in line. It's not quite in line yet. Let's see, that's about right. And that looks about right there. So I think we're about right there. That's slightly out there. Alright, what do I need? I need my tape measure, and we'll just double check side to side that that's exactly right. Just bear with me a sec. See my... right. Let's have a go here. That's... what have we got there? We've got 6.5. Oops, come on. What have we got this side? 6.5. So that's pretty much bob on where we are there. I'm quite pleased with that. That's square there. That's square there. Or as near as damn it anyway. So it is a scrap built mower. This, it doesn't have. Sorry, a scrap built wheelbarrow. It doesn't have to be perfect. What we can do quickly though is just check between there. That's 60.5. And we're slightly out that way. We are out that way. We need to pull them apart a little bit. Let's try that again. I think we are slightly out on one of these rails. What we might have to do is just take a little bit off that rail there, just to yeah, I think when I was cutting this, yeah, because we're all right there. That's square there, so we know that's right. We are very slightly out there. Basically, I need to take about 5mm off all the way around on that side. So what I'm going to do to keep this thing all in line is I'm just going to weld up these sides there and there, just to basically strengthen that, because I've already put some tacks on there at the moment. So I'm going to weld them up. Then I can just get the grinder out again with the cutting disc. I can take 5mm off that side there. That should bring that true again. Allow my sides to line up and we should be square again. Because although that's right there and them angles are right there, when I measured just then back to back, I've got that leg from there to there is 60.5 centimetres, and that one there is 61 centimetres. So if we take off 5mm from there, that should have us sorted out. But before I can do that, I will have to just weld up these and make these a bit stronger, or else it's going to flex while I'm cutting that, and we're going to be back to tacking it all back together again. So this is the way I normally do it, but seeing I've my cock up and all that, we will proceed to weld this up a bit more securely than I would have normally done at this point. So I'd normally get it all tacked together and then weld all around it, but because of that, I think we'll just add a little bit more. We'll add a little bit more weld where we need it. So I'm not a professional welder by any way, shape or form. I just like mucking about with stuff like this, especially using scrap. It's actually far easier if you're using like stock virgin steel and all that, but this is more fun. Right, let's do a little bit more welding on these. That'll hold that one a bit more. I'll go in and do the same on this side here. Once I get my blowing a little bit of a hole there, but never mind. There we go. There we are. I'm going to put a couple more on this side as well. Now I'll put a couple just on there. Okay. Right, what we can do now is we can just flip that over and do the same on the other side. It'll be stronger if we flip over now. Yeah. And we'll just put a few tacks on that side, and then we can look at just I won't film it. I'll just trim that edge off down, and we can get to looking at sticking the rear cross member on it as well. So we'll stick a few tacks on here. Oops. and it helps when I reconnect my earthing clamp. There's my snip. It's always handy just to snip the excess wire off the end of your torch. There we go. One. There we go, that's that one done. Do the same on this side. Again there, that's tacked. And there we go. Right, I'll just quickly show you that. I won't take my gloves off because that would be really hot. Get rid of the welding magnet. So at least we know that that's fairly square. But basically, as you can see, what we've done, just with some basic tack welds on each corner, we've just tack welded all that together. It's good and strong now. I mean, it wouldn't stand up to that. Those are just tack welds. We're going to have to come in here and we're going to have to weld right the way up all these and then across where we've welded there. But that'll hold it together for now. Like I said, I just need to take 5mm off, which is the longer of these two legs, because I have messed up somewhere and I am out by 5mm. So I'll just pause the video now. I'll get that sorted out and that cleaned up, cut off, and then we'll come back and just stick the rear. We'll stick the rear cross member on it, and we can take it from there. So back in a sec. Okay, it's actually the following day. I got called away on a bit of an errand yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to finish doing what I was doing. The good news is I've actually managed to get my welded so it works down here without having to run an extension lead all down the garden, which is good. Unfortunately, I forgot to press record on the camera before when I started actually doing this, so apologies there. But basically what I've done is I've finished off welding up what we've got here. So I've welded the rear cross member on here. I've welded up the sides. I've welded both sides. I've welded the ends. Now, I will say straight away, this is not my best welding job I have ever done. That welder is, I think I realise now why I stopped using it and much prefer my MIG. It's tricky to weld this kind of metal with it. Basically, if you have it on its minimum setting, you can get the wire speed right, but you've got no penetration. You flick it over onto its maximum, because that's all it's got. It's got 2 power settings, minimum and maximum. You adjust your wire speed up a little bit, and if you're not super careful, you just blow holes. And I've spent quite a bit of time just chasing holes that I've blown, but I've managed to get it together. Like I said, the weld, I'll get it up here. I'll just show you. The welding is pretty awful, actually. Even by my standards, I'm not a professional welder in any way, shape or form, but even I'm not too happy with them. But that said, they will clean up. One of the problems with these gasless MIG and this type of machine is it's a dirty weld compared with a proper MIG welder. It splatters a lot. You've got all the slag you've got to clean off. And by that, what I mean is basically once you've done your weld, you have to get a little wire brush hammer like this and basically chip away at your weld and then brush it to remove the oxide. Well, it's called slag, and it's what's formed by the flux on the inside of the welding wire that forms like a shield as the weld cools, and then you've got to chip it away. But basically, we've got our chassis here. What I will do is once we've got it all together and we've got it all pretty well mocked up, I will go over all these welds again and just fill in the little holes that we've got, and then once it's all been painted, the paint will actually fill in any of the tiny little pinholes and stuff like that. So I wouldn't use this standard of welding, say I was welding on the car or on a Land Rover chassis or something like that. I wouldn't really consider a machine like this. Oh, car body work, yeah, possibly. But the problem is like this, you can do it if you're really methodical and you weld, basically, like I had to end up doing here is putting a spot weld on, moving across, putting a spot weld on, moving across, putting a spot weld on, moving across, and basically doing that. That's the only way I could do these end pieces where I bent the tab over without blowing huge holes. Was put a little weld on, tap it a bit, make sure it's nice and close, put another weld on, tap it a bit, and basically just work round and round everything like that. So the chassis is together. I suppose the next thing we really need to do is get the wheel mounted, because once we've got the wheel mounted, we can actually work out how long the back stands are going to be. And I've also decided I'm not going to add the two little outriggers that I decided to put in there and there, because I don't need them. I've got one point there, I can put a leg coming down. I've got another point there, and I'll just come back to the chassis rail there for the third one. So okay, it won't be a perfect triangle, but it'll still do exactly the same idea that instead the foot will just come down to a point from 3 points there on the bodywork down to yeah, it'll work perfectly. That'll be absolutely that will be absolutely fine. In fact, I could have it straight there, angle that one in, angle that. Yeah, that's going to work. That's going to work nicely. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First thing we need to do is look at putting the wheel in. So I've got my two pieces here. That will stand around so you can see a bit more what's going on. Right. We've got those two pieces. We've got our bike wheel here. So what we need to do, the best thing we could do is if we bolt these actually in position on the bike wheel like that. So we put that one on there, and we put that one on there, and we actually bolt them into position on the bike wheel. We can then slide that under there and figure out exactly where we need it on the frame. I might need to just grab a spanner or something just to nip these up, because they are a bit on the manky side. Right, what I'll do, I'll go and find a couple of spanners. I'll get these fixed on there like that. I just need to do these bolts up, get them nice and tight on there, and then we can look at getting them in the frame. Get the frame marked up, get it all cleaned up, and we'll weld the brackets in position. Right, so just bear with me, I'll just get that sorted out and we'll be back in a sec. Okay, there we go. So basically what I've done is I've got that made up. So I've got our two wheel carriers just on there. They're only on loose, I've not done the nuts up tight, so I've got a bit of play in them so I can move them in and out and round like that until we can get it exactly where we want it. So we'll grab a couple of clamps of some kind to help just hold all this in place. I suppose it really matters what clamps we use for this. Nice G-clamp there. And I should have another G-clamp kicking about somewhere, but I'm not sure what I've done with it. That sash pipe will do for now. Right. So this should be fairly easy. What we will do It's basically, imagine that this is basically at the moment upside down, but we just want to figure out exactly where we want the wheel. That's about right. So I'm just, oh dear, this is going to be tricky to do single-handed, but I think I'll figure it out. I think if I get one clamp on now, and then I can fiddle about with it until I've got everything nice and squared up, and then I can mark the frame and we can grind it and actually tack this thing in place. Right, okay. So I'll just very gently, so that's not done up tight, it's just done up enough. And if you remember, this is upside down, the wheel will be the other way around. It's easier to line it all up like this. I need the whole thing to come towards me about a gnat's hair. That's probably about a gnat's hair enough there. So there's no real finesse in this. You don't, when you're making out a scrap like this, unless you're building an actual vehicle or something, you only have to be fairly rough on your measurements. You know, racket thighs. Whoa! Yeah, perhaps I should have tightened them nuts up a little bit tighter, bugger. But fortunately, that one's in place now anyway. It's just this other side we need to figure out. And basically, if the wheel is pretty much on centre, I think we're going to be fairly close to where we should be. Which, that's looking centred. So we take that there, and just do that up. Right. I think I would have been better off with a different clamp. That's clamping quite nicely on that side. We're definitely central there. I'm quite pleased with how we're actually sitting. So I suppose I could mark this side up. The other side, not so. Try and get another clamp on it. Wow. Yeah, it should be good enough, that. I've got one of these crappy pump clamps, but it should be enough. You can't use these for welding though, because they melt. I found that out the hard way. I got a bit too close with one. But it should be enough just to... Oh, no. That's why these are crap. There we go, that's holding that. Yeah, and I'm quite happy with that. We're fairly square there. So I can't pick the wheel up at the moment because it's not really that well secured, but it's secured enough that I can put a mark along there, put a mark along there, put a mark there, I'll put a mark there like that, so we know exactly where them brackets are going. Now, I'm really tempted to actually tack them, at least just tack them in place with the wheel in situ, because it'll actually keep everything lined up. And then obviously once we've got some tacks in, we can take the wheel out of there and then weld them up properly. That's probably what I'm going to do. Just make some marks on the framework so we know exactly where these brackets are going. Then I can take these off. We can clean a bit of the... we can clean the paintwork up round here where we need to clean it up. And then we can put this back on with the clamps. And we can just run a few little tack welds around it just to hold it for the time being. Then we can take the wheel off and we can weld it round properly. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. So we'll take them off there. Right. I might just nip that up ever so. I shouldn't need to. I shouldn't need to have to. I'll just put that to one side for now, and we'll get the old grinding wheel out, and we'll just take some paint off that side, and just there where I'll put my black lines. I have put the lines on the side there, so I do actually know where to reposition it once we've cleaned the paint off. So I'll just grab my grinder with the grinding wheel in it. There we go. I've got the safeties, and I've got my ear defenders. Put them on. Glasses on first, then ear defenders. Right. So that should be enough of the paint off. That should be enough of the paint off there for us to at least get some tacks on the ends. I should really clean this metal up as well, but sod it, I think it'll be good enough. Right. So let's get this line back up. Need to just push that way a little. Oops. No, you stay in there. We'll get a clamp on this side as well. That's out of alignment yet. That's about right there. Right. So yeah, actually that's looking pretty damn good. Where's that little? No, I can't use the quick clamp for this because we're going to put some tacks on. There's a chance to melt it. So we'll just have to use this sash clamp and hope we can get it on better than we did last time. Oops. Just tighten this up and then hopefully, yeah, I've put my sash clamp right in the wrong place to get that back together. Damn. Bugger. I think I'm going to have to double bugger. Right, let's try perhaps just whipping these up a little bit tighter on here. I did have them a little on the loose side. Right, have I pushed right in like that? They should hold. They really should hold. At least long enough to get this in position. Right. Let's try it again anyway. Now that side's lovely and absolutely perfect on this side. So slide the G-clamp on. Oh, don't fall off again, go on. So that's just where I want it really. Perhaps just over a tiny oh crap. Perhaps we'll be better off putting this side in first and then worrying about that side. That might be. We'll use the G-clamp over on this side then. Yes, I've said time and time again, I am no professional at this. I'm just an amateur. But it's a bit of fun. Right, that's set roughly where I want it, I think. Oh, I just need to bring the wheel. The wheel's not in alignment. There we are, that. Oh, you little sod. But at least that stayed where it should do. Push that back in home. I wonder if I can get the spanner on it and just tighten it up a little bit. Oops, let's try this. And of course the whole spindle then turns. Great. Just what you need. There we are. That's it. But can we hold it while we get this in? That is the question. Or is it going to fall? It's going to fall out, isn't it, before we get it in? Go on, stay in there. So we've got that. We've got it lined up perfect. Sorry, these are dirt cheap. I don't care if I melt it. Up you go. Hopefully we've got that. Hopefully that is in the right place. It looks okay on the frame. It does now anyway. It needed a little bit of a tweak. What I could do with is something on the back there just to hold it while we get this first tack in, really. What can we use? What can we use? Yeah, because although, hang on, if we know that's dead right now, and we drop that out like that, those should be in exactly the right place, shouldn't they? Because we literally did just drop the wheels straight out of them, and they look lined up. Perhaps a very slight tweak there and a very slight tweak there, like that. And those look pretty much bob on. In fact, let's get the old tape measure. Now, where's the tape measure gone? Oh, I've got one in my pocket. And now if we measure from there to there, got 4, and we've got 4, so that is bang on there. And we've got about 9mm there, and we've got about 9mm there. So yeah, I think we're pretty happy with that. So I'm going to just tack these just really loosely in place. I'm going to put one tack there, trying not to get close to that side because we'll melt the thing. Then I'm going to put a tack on that side there, and then we can actually move the clamp across because it's raised up a tiny little bit there. Just see if we can just squidge it down a little bit while I put another tack along there, and then obviously we'll tack along there. We'll flip it over and we'll just, before I weld it up fully, we'll flip it over and we'll just see whether it fits together okay. Right. We'll get a good earth on the piece of work we're working on. We could perhaps crank this wire speed up a bit, and we're on max because this is nice and thick, this metal, and we're going onto the flat of that metal. We're not going onto the edge of it, so we're less likely to blow a hole. Right, let's get the welding goggles and the welding paraphernalia on. Where's my other welding goggle gone? There it is. Right. Let's stick a couple of welds on here just to hold them in place. See, it's much happier, this welder welding something a little thicker. That went in quite nicely. We'll do another one round here. Okay. Just a little bit more on there. That's good enough for that side. Now what I can do, I can release that clamp from there, move it over a bit, and we'll just use it just to squidge that bit of metal down, because like I say, it's just a little raised up there. That's pulled it down nice and tight. And we'll put a tack on this side here. Yeah, that's fine there. You see, when you're welding this thicker stuff, it's okay, this welder. It's when you get on the really thin stuff like this box that we're working on that you struggle. Now we can take that off there. I'm quite happy that's not going to go anywhere now. And we'll take this this clamp, which is in danger of melting, off. I don't think we need to clamp that actually. It's nice and tight. In fact, just to stop it raising, we will just whip the clamp on. But I think I could probably just put a tack on there straight away. That's good and solid on that side there. Right. Put my goggles on, or my mask, and we'll put one final tack on this side here. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. That should definitely hold it anyway. Right. Now, just bear in mind that these are going to stick bloody hot. But we should be able to get the wheel actually mounted in there now. Or at least, in fact, what we can do, we'll spin this over and we will see whether the wheel actually fits where we want it to fit. Right. Is that going to go in? Come on, go in you go. I think I've got the nut, I've got the washer stuck behind it on one side. Right, that's in that side. That's gone in that side. Why is it not going in this side? Get under here and just find out why. Ooh, that's hot. I think it just needs a bit of persuasion, to be fair. We're nearly in. It's slightly difficult when everything you touch is threatening to burn you. But that's the fun of welding. Right, that side's going in. So that is just ever so slightly out now. It must have moved. It's so, there we go. It was so slight I could just push it in. And there we are. That's home. Now I wonder if I can just get a couple of spanners on that and actually nip it up. So that wheel will then be, well, we'll have to take it out to weld all that up properly, but that seems to be in Well, that one there seems to be in more than this one. Let's just see if that'll tighten up. Right. Ooh. Just bear with me a minute, folks. I'll try and get a spanner on there. Can you actually see what I'm doing? No, you can't. Let me get you up here. Right, there we go. So we've basically got the wheel in. If I get my spanner in there, and that spanner on there, we should be able to tighten that side up, which we can. That's tight. Now, let's slacken that slightly. Just make sure that that wheel is square. Which, yeah, it's for wheelbarrow use, it's certainly square enough. So we'll tighten that nut down. I can't tighten them too madly because I've only got it tight with some little tack welds, but there we go. Right. Perfect. So, as you can see, we have the starts of the makings of the wheelbarrow. The wheel's actually quite nicely centred in there. Basically what we can do now is we can figure out the length that we need for these back legs, because we're going to need two pieces that go down and then a piece that goes down from there to make these like tripod legs up for the back. And then we're going to be on to building the wooden box for it. But I think I'm going to actually leave it there for now because this video otherwise is going to be getting on too long. I want to try and, if I can keep these videos for like 30-40 minutes each, then people don't get too bored, you know, when they're like an hour and a half of me knocking things together. I think people might get a little bit bored of it. So hopefully I can keep this thing around the 30 to 40 minute mark. It just depends. I'll try and edit it all up. But anyway, that's going to be enough for part 2. Like I said, in part 3 we'll finish off knocking this frame up. We'll get it all painted up, and then we'll look at actually making the woodwork, which is what's actually going to turn it into the wheelbarrow. So, so I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed that little adventure in wheelbarrow construction. So, thanks for watching and goodbye. Okay, we're back, and as you can see, I've got it basically set up on the bench in a level configuration. And I've just checked this, and we are pretty much bob on level there. So we go that way as well. Oops. Yeah, we're nice and square. Close enough to square as it matters for a wheelbarrow. I'm just having to play about with these back legs, seeing exactly how I can get the back legs to work. And this is going to be the basic idea. I've just stuck that in there for now. That's the same as that I've cut for the other side. So basically we're going to have a little foot on the bottom like that. Then we're going to have one upright there. We're going to have, now this is going to be tricky because I just realised that I've left this in the vise, and I've just put the tripod right in front of it, so I've got to see if I can slide this out without, no, that's not going to work. See if I can slide this out without disturbing the camera. Let's see if this is possible. There we go, that was a, right. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to cut another of those that's going to be like, basically like that. It'll go between the main rail and down to that foot like that. And then there's going to be a third one which will come from the from down there up to somewhere on the bodywork up there like that. So basically it makes a tripod rear leg. So I think the first thing I'm going to have to do is we need to measure. Now this is going to be really roughed in. I'm not too worried if these aren't exactly right, providing it works out in the end. So yeah, that'll do. So I'll make one, say 30 centimetres, and I angle the ends of the cut. That should work for one of the legs. Right, I've got this piece of angle here. Now of course I've got to get it back into the vise without disturbing the tripod. Let's see if we can do that. In fact, I wonder if I can get you down and you can see what I'm... There we go, close enough. Right, so, might be a little bit... Oh, I wonder if I can slide one of my lights. Oh, look at that. I knew I put this light in here for a reason. There we go. Right, so what we've decided is we want 30 centimetres, which is going to end us up about there, but we're going to put a bit of an angled cut on it, I think. Say about that. I'm not being precise with this because we're welding it in, and this is a wheelbarrow. We can get away with being a little bit inaccurate. Put a line up there. Just give me a rough guide on where I'm going to cut. Because this is only thin gauge steel, and I fancy a quiet life today, I'm just going to cut it with a hacksaw rather than the angle grinder. It's a bit loose yet. Let's tighten that contact down. There we go. Oops. It helps if you've got a sharp blade in your hacksaw, which this is a bit on the passive side. Right, now I'm going to have to probably put, let's try that in there. Yeah, that's probably about right. I'm going to have to put a similar cut basically on the opposing side. So that goes down there, that sits flat there. That's what I'm going to want to come in there. So basically I want to trim that like that there, just to match that. I'll put that mark on there. Right. I'll trim that bit of metal off and then we'll just give it a quick trial fit. And if we're happy with it, we'll cut the other side one to exactly the same. So I'll put that in there. It definitely would be easier with the grinder. Just to show you can do it just with the basic of basic tools. Oops, I just slipped. There we go. There we go. Right, so that's what we've made, and hopefully, tilt you back up. Hopefully this will fit. And the idea is it's going to go yeah, I think that should work. In fact, we might have to just trim a little bit off just to get that in. We'll try taking that down another little bit. Perhaps. Yeah, I know I could do a lot of measurements, but as I've said, it's a wheelbarrow. You don't have to get too, it's not a car or anything, it's not something that's going to go on the road, it's going to run up and down the garden. So providing it's strong. Oops. There we go. Let's try that. That's more what I was looking for. So that'll go in there like that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. What I might do is just take a bit off that edge there where it's going to sit up against there so I can get a better welding. But apart from that, I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to cut another one exactly the same as that. In fact, you don't need to see me cut another exactly the same as that, so we'll come back when I've got them cut and we're just working on the next piece. So back in a sec. Okay, I've got those cut and I've done exactly what I said I was doing. I've just took the corner off there on the edge that's going to fit down in the bottom. And if you see, if you look over here, it just allows that basically just to sit in a little bit further. So hopefully I can get a weld across the top there and right down both sides, and that should be a little bit stronger on that foot. So really the only last thing we've got to do is get a return from there up to somewhere on the chassis leg, and I've got this piece of box and one more like it, so we should have plenty of steel left. So I'll try and keep that angle I've got there, so because I've already determined that works quite well. So that would bring us, this is going to be one of these funny awkward welds. Sorry, for funny awkward cuts. It's not going to be a square cut anywhere. So put that there. Right, roughly along like that. Look again. There we go, along like that, and then join those two up. Right, I think I've got something I can try and cut out on there, and we'll see how well it lines up on the framework. So it's probably going to need a little bit of fettling to get this to fit, but we can but try. The other thing to do, like I said, would be to put a little outrigger on here and connect it that way, but still I don't think that would give us a great deal more. The other thing to use is, again, we could probably use a piece of flat stock or something. I mean, that would be a possibility. We could just weld up a piece of... In fact, I don't know, what I'll do is I'll cut this one and I'll see how well it's going to work on here, and if it looks like it's going to be a pain, I'll go and see if I've got a bit of flat stock that could go up there, because that would actually be fine for it. I might have something. We'll try and use this first, seeing this is of less value to me than the flat stock. Right, which way are we going with that cut? That cut's going that way. This is again one that would probably have been better done with the cutting desk, although I don't know how neat it would be. Let's try this. final side. We'll see if this is going to work. I'm sort of having my doubts and thinking that perhaps that flat stock idea might be better. We'll see in a second. Right. Something kind of like that's what we're going for. Let's get you back up on the workpiece. We'll see if this is going to work out. Right, so the idea would be to go in like, well, bugger me, it doesn't just kind of, that would work, that would actually work like that. Of course I disturbed everything doing it, but that would actually work. And I've got, I suppose, the other side already cut from there, so that will be that way round like that, which would mean I cut this angle here like that. We do actually have all the pieces we need just out of this scrap here, and I wouldn't have to go and delve into my flat stock. I wasn't actually expecting that to work then. I've surprised myself with that one. Right, let's get this cut and then we can oh no, it's not run off that much. That's okay, that. Right. Well, if it'll fit on this side the same as that side, we know we're going to be okay. And yes, it does. So that's going to work. Excellent. Right, what I need to do, I'm going to have to clean up all the ends on. You're still down there, I need you up here, don't I? Right, there we go. I'm going to have to clean all these ends up now, ready for welding. I'm also going to have to clean up on the frame, ready for welding. And then I suppose we can tack this leg together and see how it goes. So you don't need to see me cleaning all this up because I've shown you me using the grinder to clean the paint off and what have you already. So what I will quickly do is we'll just mark up on the frame roughly where these are going to go. So we know one goes to the end there. I'm not going to be going quite to the end, so we've got one pretty much there. So we're going to have to make sure all that's off there. Now obviously we've got that one in place there. And we know that's going there. We know that that is going to be around about where that join is there. So we make sure everything's clear off around there, we should be okay. And then this one is going on there. No, that's not the right. Oh, no, that's that piece. This is this piece. This piece is going on there and it's going to form onto the frame. That doesn't look bad. We'll try and get them both like that. So we put a mark up the frame there, and then we need to clean off all round that section there. And basically, we'll do the same on the other side, and we should be in quite a decent position there. Right, I'll get you paused while I just get this paint cleaned off, and then we'll have a look at seeing if we can just tack this together and see how it looks. So. Back in a sec. Okay, we're back and I've got everything cleaned up now. So I've cleaned all the ends of these up. Cleaned up where we're welding here, under there. I've even cleaned the feet up, if you can see, so we've got something nice and shiny to weld to there. Right, so we may as well see if we can stick this first foot together and see if it's actually going to work the way we want it to. So those are the uprights. They're both exactly the same, so we'll pick this one. The first thing we need to do is just tack that onto there to give us something to start with. You can't see what I'm doing there, can you? I wonder if I could do. No, I'll do it over here. I'll just get you down and show you what we're actually doing. Right. So what I want to do is I want to tack that to there, but I want to make sure it's at 90 degrees, so that the leg's straight. Right. So we're going to have to clamp that, aren't we? I don't know whether I could use one of my magnetic clamps for this or not. No, I don't think. Possibly if I get it in like that. Yeah, that should hold it well enough to get a tack on that side there, and then we can deal with the other side. I'll probably have to hold it down while I get a tack there. Switch the welder on. I'll get my welding gloves on. The welder is on, is it? I think so. Yeah, the welder's on, so we just need to clip that end of that off. There we go. Get our earth clamp connected. And then we'll connect the earth clamp onto the big heavy duty piece we're doing there. I don't want to weld any at the bottom, I just want to weld on the side at the moment. Just in there basically. Just to secure it. We'll make sure that's nice and upright. Yeah, the 90's nice and snug there, so where's my welding mask? There it is. Okay. Right, we're set like that. I'll get my other glove on. Just while we get this first tack on. Right, there we go. Now what we set on the welder, we want it reasonably hot because we can start our weld on that thicker metal there basically. Okay, we should be okay. Let's have a look at that. That'll do as an initial tack there. Right. Out of harm's way, have a quick slurp of coffee. Right. So we're going to literally just put one little tack on that. Just be careful because that tack won't really hold much. It should be enough for me to. Yeah, that'll work quite well. So we'll put another tack on the other side. Same. You know, a reasonable height. Actually, no, it can go down to the bottom there. It won't cause a problem because there's a piece going on the front piece there, and the other one's at an angle, so that won't matter too much. So we'll get another tack on that, and then we can have a look at just getting it in place. Now, where can I get a good earth? I can actually go on the end of there, really, because those are now connected. So that should be all right there. Get my welding mask again. Okay. And where did I put the torch then? Right. We'll get another tack on this side here. Let's see what that's like. Ah, perfect. That's quite a decent one there. Right. So, as you can see there, I'll just bring it into shot. We've got, hopefully you can see that, I don't know. We've got just a tack weld on that side there, and rig it round. You can see we've just got a tack weld on that side there, so that's just held temporarily while we play with it and get it in position on here. Oh, I think I must have had that piece of wood the way around, just a sec. Just a fine adjustment on my stand here. That's better. Right, so we'll get that in position now. About halfway down there, like that. Line it up. We'll get the old level on it. Just see if that's right. It needs to go in a tiny touch. Let's see if that's right. Good enough for a wheelbarrow. Right, I'll get you up a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Right, so basically we've just got that leg lined up roughly, and again I'm just going to really lightly tack it in place at the top there. So where am I going to connect my earth clamp? I think I'll connect it, oops, that was my welding mask. I'll connect it up there like that, and then we'll try and get a weld on this side here, because it's where I've got that other weld that I've cleaned up, and it should be good and solid up at that end there. Now, we are slightly out in that orange. Actually no, we're not. No, it's just me being still. Oops. Caught that then. There we go, I'm happy with that. Get the old welding torch, and I'll push down on the top as a weld just so it doesn't move. Right, let's try getting a tack up on here. Not a brilliant tack. I'll just try and perhaps get a little bit more weld on that. I'll just go around a bit. That's a bit more like it. Perhaps just another touch. There, a bit. In fact, I could actually go around the back and put a tack on the back here because we've got nothing else round there. So. That's better. That one went in a bit better. Perhaps just one around here as well. Slightly blew a hole then, but we can deal with that later when we weld it up properly. That should hold it for the moment while we get the next piece of the jigsaw puzzle in. Which should be this cross piece here, which is going to go between there and right up there like that. So this is going to be another one where I'm going to have to basically hold it in position, get a tack on the top there, and then weld it on the bottom so it's tacked in place. I don't know why I put my welding helmet all the way over there, so I'm going to need it right now. And when I've done with the welding torch, there it is. Right, so let's get this one tacked in place. Are we alright at the bottom there? No, we need to come over a little touch. We need that about halfway there. That's about right. Okay, let's get that tacked into place. Don't think that weld took. I don't know, let's see. Yeah, it did. It's not too bad. Bit shoddy, but not too bad. At least that's reasonably in line. That should be okay actually. What I'll do is I'll tack it at the bottom so it's not going to... that has moved slightly out of place at the bottom as that weld's cooled. Hopefully we can just push it over without breaking that top weld. Yeah, there we go. I'll have to hold that while I just get a tack on at the bottom. I'll get a tack on down here at the bottom. see how close we got there. That's not very good. Let's see if we can get in again and then just do that again. Right, that's a bit better. Yeah, we've got a tack on that side there. I'll do the same on this side. That's better, we've got a good tack on that side there now. I suppose while I'm at it I might as well get another one up at the top here just to make absolutely sure that's not coming off. Again, I've blown a little bit of a hole there, let me just see if I can... Oops. Have a look there now. Well, at least we've got the two joined together, but I have blown a little bit of a hole there, slightly annoyingly. That's the only problem with, like I said, this really thin metal and not a very controllable welder. But it will hold for the time being, and I can deal with that that little hole I've blown. That's not a problem. Right, so all we've got now really is the big long one to fit, which will go from the bottom down there up to... Now this is cut it that way around. Perhaps that one might need a little bit of fettling. Perhaps this is the first one that I cut. Oh no, there, yeah, that's it. That's in there. That's not too bad at all. We can deal with that. So we need to get that one in place there now. So again, this is going to have to be, unfortunately, a case of... Where is that bit of paint or ground off? There. Right. I'll hold that in position. I'll get a little tack on the bottom there and then we'll tack it at the top. I think that's exactly how we had it before. If not, that's how it's going anyway. We'll get a tack at the bottom here. And we'll just see if we can get a little tack at the top. And again, I blew a little hole. Let's just see if we can get one tack on the top here. There we go, I think we've got one. Yeah, it's not pretty, but it's just set fire to a sponge under my desk as well, never mind, it's gone out. Not pretty, but it's in position. I think now I can get in here and actually look. I'm going to just get a bit of a better weld at the bottom there. The top's not too bad, at least it will hold it. That bottom one's only barely holding on. Let me just see if I can get another quick tack on there. That's more like it. That got it this time. Let's see if we can just get another one on the top up there. Oops. That's better. Right, so basically what we need to do is do the same thing on the other side, and then just go around all these welds and actually weld them in properly. So I'll just pause the video, I'll just do the same thing I've done this on the other side, and then we'll be right back. So back in a sec. Okay, and there we go. As you can see, we have our tripod legs at the back. As you can, we've taken the support out. I've had to flip it round just to tack this side, and it is only tacked. You know, it's I'm going to have to go around each one of these points now and actually weld it up proper. I'll also go over all the welds that I did previously, because they're strong enough, but they just look terrible. So I'm going to go over them and tidy them up a little bit, give the entire thing a coat of paint, and then in the next episode, when we come back, we'll actually have something that we can start looking at building the wooden actual barrow part of this. So hope you have enjoyed this little episode. Like I said, when we come back, we will get on with some of the woodwork, and you'll see this in its finished state with some nice black paint on it and what have you. So hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.